எதன் கண்ணே நிலையாகி இருந்திடும் உலகமெல்லாம் எதனின்று அனைத்துலகும் எழுமோ மற்றிவையாவும் எதன் பொருட்டா எதனாலே வையமெல்லாம் எழுந்திடும் எல்லாமும் எதுவேயாகும் அதுதானே உளபொருளாம் சத்தியமாம் அச்சொருபம் அகத்தில் வைப்பார். தத்துவம் கண்டவர்க்கு தாமே வளரும் மொழி புத்தி வலுவும் வசந்தம் போந்ததுவே இத்தரையில் தாருவழகாதி சகல குணங்களும் சேர விளங்கல் எனத்தே. தத்துவம் கண்டவர்க்கு தாமே வளரும் ஒளி புத்தி வலுவும் வசந்தம் போந்ததுமே இத்தரையில் தாருவழகாதி சகல குணங்களும் சேர விளங்கல் எனத்தே. Namo Ramana. With Bhagavan's immense grace, we have been meditating on the segment of Anubandham, or the self-realized state of the Jnani, and we have come to the second verse in this segment. We have found that this segment of Anubandham is present in Ulladu, Narpadu and Upadeshasaram as the last 10 verses. Now here we have these verses between 28 and 33, then again from 34 some verses on caution regarding the pride of book learning and the seeking of fame and treating of Guru with disrespect. Those verses are followed by finally the 40th verse, where the whole summation is done, or Tattva Saram is given to us in the 40th verse. We come back to this 29th verse, which is taken from Yoga Vasishtam once again. Know that the lustre and power of intellect will automatically increase in those who have known the reality, like the trees on this earth shining forth with all qualities such as beauty as soon as spring comes. So the verse is quite straightforward. That's why I have taken it in one go. Know that lustre and power of intellect will automatically increase in those who have known the reality. Tattvam kandavarku thame valarum moli. Buddhi valuvum vasantam pondaduke. How so? Like the trees on this earth shining forth with all qualities such as beauty as soon as spring comes. So the second part is clear, as it is an indication of how this intellectual lustre and power is automatic and natural, as it is natural and automatic for the earth to blossom forth, the trees and vegetation on earth to blossom forth with beauty and other qualities like giving nourishment and all that. As soon as the spring is there, it is as natural as that. That is the comparison that Yoga Vasishta gives. But this sets us on an important topic, though the verse is simple. And Kanakamal adds an addition in the meaning that the first part, Tattvam Kandavarka Tame Valarum Oli. That Oli part she has interpreted as all kinds of good things, all kinds of beneficial happenings, all kinds of welfare, all kinds of well-being automatically comes in the presence of the Jnani. Sadhuvam Swamigal keeps it to the intellect alone, but we can take that if the intellect is shining with the positivity and the glory of the self, automatically what Kanakamal says, it has to follow that Sakala Kalyananam Niketanaha Pahinaha. The Sadguru Bhagavan is the treasure house of all kinds of treasures you can think of in any dimension of living. So that is how Kanakamal interprets. But either way, we can take that Sakala Kalyanam, all the good things automatically come where the Jnanam has been realized. But this sets us on an important question as to can we suggest that there are some uses or benefits of self-inquiry? That is, this is something that we have been debating for a long time in our center, and it has helped us to turn ourselves inward. The debate amongst ourselves has helped us to turn our mind inward when we decide clearly that there should not be any boastful claim of kalyanas or benefits of self-inquiry, because the very fact that any benefit will be a non-self, anything other than the self, therefore it will take the attention away from the self-inquiry. We had decided that that should not be a deliberate course taken by us. That has been an ongoing discussion, and it has helped us keep ourselves turned inward. But this verse, which is translated and placed here by Bhagavan, opens up that field, that how far is it correct to say that these benefits will follow, and how far why Bhagavan has introduced this verse. To some extent we can meditate, though we cannot tell fully, but Bhagavan has placed this verse here, so we have to give respect to that. And it is true, it is true from experience that even when some attempt is made to go towards the self, all the Kalyana Gunas, they automatically follow. Because in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Krishna says that as soon as somebody, some devotee follows me in Ananya Bhakti, that there is none other than Krishna, none other than the self that is, then all of the works of that devotee I take on my head as Ishvara and do it. And Pandit Lakshmana Sharma, in an earlier interpretation in one of the verses in Ulladu Narpadu, says that the Jnani is the Ishvara Shakti flowing into earth. Because of the ego being completely erased, whatever the Jnani does, or the mere existence of the Jnani, is the abundant flow of Ishvara into the into this dimension. So what Kalyana can be there, that cannot be brought by that Ishvara Shakti. That Shakti which is running the whole cosmos, when that is coming through a being, in and around that being, what else can be there except Uttama Kalyana? But why then Bhagavan doesn't give a slightest fragrance of this in the entire Ulladu Narpadu? And if we look into the entire talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi, we will not find a single place where Bhagavan will say, you will be able to study well, you will be able to be part of teams in a very nice manner, your creativity will increase and flourish. None of this will be mentioned in any of the talks. Whenever somebody asks even about progress, Bhagavan, I don't feel that there is any progress in me. I have been following self-inquiry and devotion to you for years on end, but I am not seeing progress. So Bhagavan would ask them, inquire, for whom is the necessity to see progress? For whom is the progress? You are still there. Why do you want to measure progress? I know what progress you will have. He will not say like that. He will indirectly indicate that you live it. You live it to the higher part. What progress is there? You do your part. Now, in the rarest of rare incidents, we have shared this in Ulladu Narpadu sessions also. In talks, Bhagavan would share that the indication of progress in Atma Vicharam is the reduction in number of thoughts and the freedom from unwanted thoughts. That is the indication that you are going towards the self. That is the only indication in one of the talks he gives regarding use or progress or kalyana or benefit from self-inquiry. Now, having set this up, we go into this important topic that these are the lines regarding the benefits which are apparently there, but which cannot be claimed by one who wants to share self-inquiry, because any benefit will be non-self, and they will take the attention away from the self. Now, then what is this lustre? And we find in one of the earliest teachings in Tamil and perhaps in any language, Avayar says in Atichudi that the teachings to young children who are just starting with learning Tamil, she says one should never boast of one's possessions. One should never boast of one's possessions. Bhagavan, of course, tells us this story in talks where there is a Maharani who is a great Rama Bhakta, and she does all the practices openly, and the only shortcoming she feels in her life is that the Maharaja has not taken up any kind of sadhana, especially she having taken up Rama Bhakti so much, he not having taken up is the only worry. One night when he is sleeping, she observes that he is chanting Ramanama in his lips. Rama, though he is deep asleep, he is chanting Ramanama and the Ramanama is coming out of him, and she is totally elated. If someone in dream state where the control over the ego is practically not there, when that can happen, that in such a state the nama is going on, then his devotion is indeed very deep, and she is overjoyed and throws a huge get together for that, a party for that. Now the Raja is very embarrassed about that, he says, and Bhagavan makes this story to show that one should not be very overt or outwardly showing about the bhakti or jnana. Then what is this lustre and what is this power? Is that in Bhagavan's life and teachings, we find that it is the shining of the self, the aham, in the intellectual kosha, and through that, the Mauna Sannidhi is created. The Atma, when the Jnani is abiding naturally in the self, as I, then that Spurana alone shines in the Vijnanamaya Kosha, in the intellect, and through that it spreads into the Manomaya, Pranamaya, and Annamaya, and brings a Sannidhi, brings a presence, which we have seen in our earlier talk, in the previous verse, how that Sannidhi heals, how that Sannidhi clears doubts, how that Sannidhi gives realization to Bhakta Ramdas, to Swami Chinmayananda. The Sannidhi can manifest as the Nayana Diksha, the power which the Jnani uses to clear the cobwebs, the final few residual vasanas, so that the drishti of the Atmaswarupa is clear to that pure sadhaka. And Ramdas, Bhakta Ramdas, and Swami Chinmayananda, they narrate to us that Bhagavan was, by his Nayana Diksha, by that power, was able to clear the cobwebs of remaining vasanas, and they could have the Atma Darshana, the Swarupa Darshana. Though in Swami Chinmayananda's case, he could realize that happening, the first opening up, when he realized the self in the Tapovan Maharaj's ashram in Uttarakashi. We have seen that. Now, this, therefore, the Spurna, the lustre is the Mauna Sannidhi, and Bhagavan talks of Mauna Sannidhi in talk 433. He says, the devotee asks, does Bhagavan give Diksha, initiation? Mauna, silence, is the best and most potent Diksha. Diksha is when a Guru has reached God or reached the self through a particular mantra or through a particular path. A proper atmosphere is created and the right student who is ready to pick up that path is instructed on that path. Now Bhagavan says, Bhagavan doesn't give oral instructions, at least not for the normal ways in which he himself says in a court inquiry that I don't set up this kalasa and kumbha and chant in the ears of the sadhaka. So what he implies there is that Bhagavan's Diksha, the instruction, the Upadesha of Atmajnana or Atmavichara is through the Mauna. The Mauna Sannidhi, so therefore Bhagavan's Diksha is constant, and that lustre which we may take as the Kalyana Gunas, it can be taken in the Jnani's case as the shining of the Atmaswarupa, the I in the intellect, and a constant Diksha to those who are coming, which acts as the reliever of all kinds of troubles, the blessing of all kind of good, and it has the potency in the case of right devotees to clear the final few cobwebs of vasanas and give them the Atma Darshanam. Now, what is the extent of the Mauna Sannidhi? There is an interesting and humorous episode in Bhagavan's Sannidhi where a devotee says, Sri Aurobindo's the subtle body, the Sannidhi of the Guru is taken to be the aura, the subtle body around him, into which the devotees come, and as soon as they come, they are influenced by the Sannidhi. That is the aura of the Guru. And one of the devotees says, I have measured the subtle body of Sri Aurobindo. It is this far. And the subtle body of Bhagavan is this far. And therefore the Mauna Sannidhi, it extends to these extents. Bhagavan actually is said to have laughed at that suggestion, and he narrates to somebody, see, this person is saying that my subtle body is so many furlongs long. But on investigation, we find that Bhagavan Sannidhi is here and now, that he is the self, he is that self which is ever present. Now, when we do self-inquiry, we are going to the Mauna Sannidhi of Bhagavan. So it is not that the physical Sannidhi of the Samadhi is not effective. It is that it is my personal experience that whenever I have gone and sat in front of Bhagavan's Samadhi Shrine, my anubhava is that whenever, right from beginning, whatever is the best possible state of meditation I have realized till then, it will be given in a moment. And if at all anything has to be taught further, he will teach that what I am ready for in Bhagavan's the Samadhi Shrine. So therefore the physical Mauna Sannidhi of Bhagavan is not being questioned. But as we progress, or the progress once again in inverted commas, as we continue our sadhana with his abundant grace, we understand that when we pick up the talks, when our conditioning is reaching the mental state, when we pick up the talks, that itself Bhagavan is there. When we used to sit for satsang, I used to say right from day one in 2009, the idea was that at 6:30 Bhagavan comes. That used to be the understanding. So whoever is there or not there, the satsang has to be started, because Bhagavan cannot be kept waiting. He will be there by 6:30. When we all decide to join at 6:30, he will be there. And the sharing that we had was, even if I was not there, or even if some other member who was conducting some of the parts were not there, whoever was present had to start off with the Muktakatrayam and the 10 minutes Atma Vicharam, because Bhagavan comes. So as we go with Bhagavan's grace in our sadhana, we realize that the Mauna Sannidhi is present here and now. It is present all moments. It is present as the source of the I. Bhagavan is the ever-present self. His Sannidhi is everywhere. In fact, everywhere is not there. Only his Sannidhi is there. Because we have attachment to the place, and because we have attachment to time, we have to verbalize it that Sannidhi is present everywhere and at all times. So that is regarding the luster and power of Bhagavan's Mauna Sannidhi. Now we come to the benefits once again. We used to discuss how to take self-inquiry to all. How to take, that is naturally one of the duties of our center, that we try and take Bhagavan's teachings to as many people as possible, as is right, as is possible for us. Now in that, I had come across the meditation called mindfulness, where they had shared the spread of mindfulness in the West and in many other areas had started sometime in the 1970s. And one of the things that they could assure was, they could assure that if somebody does mindfulness, then there is this ability where the creativity increases. Since one is able to go into the unknown, one is able to be creative in their work. Then second, they would say that the team spirit, since they would feel one with everyone, whenever a class is there, whenever an institution is there, there is a feeling of togetherness. Whenever somebody wants something, there is no conflict or contest to feel greater than that. So there is natural cooperation. So mindfulness could assure that, and they have research on these areas, that there is sufficient established research that if mindfulness, wherever, since it has been done from 70s, that wherever the group has followed mindfulness, the creativity of the participants just goes by leaps and bounds. There is the team spirit goes up, the overall well-being of the person, both physical and mental, just go up automatically when mindfulness is done. There is established research. If you go into the internet, you can key in and you will get various topics. There are various institutions. Now the questions that used to arise was that why can't we tell? See, because when mindfulness is doing these things, mindfulness is a meditation which we had seen in the earlier sessions while discussing the portion on the Atma Swarupa, that when we were discussing witnessing, that witnessing which was mentioned in verse number 6 by the Ekashloki, that witnessing is nothing but the mindfulness practice. So our question used to be, why can't we mention all those? Because witnessing is also crossed by Atma Vicharam. But in Atma Vicharam, the rule is that because the Atma Vicharam involves the attention to the self, one should only hold the self. It is not that one is not aware of these benefits. We have been, there is a devotee called Sumati Madam, and about 5 years back we had gone to Chennai to conduct a workshop there in the Ramanacentre, Chennai. From that time on, we have been reading the talks every day. Almost. It's not that every day, some breaks have been there. We have read the whole of talks once. She would read and I would listen, and one talk a day we used to do. And she has been doing that for 4 years now. That is the 4 or 5 years now since that workshop. I don't remember the exact year in which we did. We have done the whole of talks once. Now we have reached about up to 109th talk. Every day around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, or sometime that's convenient for us, she will talk, she will call and read one talk. And as we have gone through the talks and she is practicing Atma Vicharam, Madam used to tell that, see, this is what is happening, that now thoughts are reducing. This particular things which issues were troubling me are not appearing at all. Then as soon as she narrates it, she will herself realize that that also has to be inquired out. She will herself tell me that, see, this too has to be inquired out, isn't it? That is, for whom is this feeling that the situation is better? For whom is the feeling? And that way, the practice of self-inquiry in her, though two of us were talking, but she would do self-inquiry and clear up any feeling of progress in the self. So that is what happens in Atma Vicharam, that any feeling of improvement also, which will naturally be there, what will happen? That will go and remain as the vasana because of the rule of karma, that whenever a karma is done and the benefit is there, if inattention is there, then that benefit remains as a vasana for you to repeat the karma. But that vasana would come out in Atma Vicharam. When the heat of Atma Vicharam is put, oh, yesterday this thing went off well, didn't it? Then immediately who is feeling will come. Therefore, Atma Vicharam is totally self-corrective. So while we don't need to assure that this will be the benefits, but all kalyanas will automatically follow, can be mentioned. All kalyanas, all the benefits of them, whatever other meditations are saying will be there. But as a natural process of Atma Vicharam, those benefits should not be claimed by the ego. They have to be dropped. Now, that was the discussion on the benefits that we had. Now, the power of the mind, the power of the intellect of the jnani, we take. One of the questions that arises there is that so many iniquities are happening throughout the world. Now, why is the power of the jnani not able to overcome that? If the luster of and power of the intellect of the jnani is so high, now what is it doing when all this is going on? Two instances, one from Bhagavan's life itself. R.N. Datta, there is a philosopher, and he has written, his account is present in face to face. If some account is present in face to face, it will be present in some other volumes of Bhagavan's accounts by various other people who have recorded. So his name is R.N. Datta from Hubli. He notes that every year it appears he used to come 10 or 15 times from Hubli to Tiruvannamalai. In those times, every year 10 to 17 times is something like that. He notes him face to face. He used to come, and in one of those visits, it is slightly before the onset of the World War, the Second World War, but the clouds are there. Hitler has already started all his raids, and the Allies had not yet been allies, and the clouds of war are all there, hanging overhead. It is so clear to everyone, and he is totally in a belligerent state. He is totally in a disturbed mind, and this foreigner comes and he starts asking Bhagavan, how can you remain quiet in this corner when such things are happening and the whole world is going to get into war? You should engage, isn't it? And you should give me an answer now as to why you are not doing anything about these things. So the context is that what is that power doing in this troubled situations? Does it mean that it is powerless? Bhagavan says, when the questioner demands, I need to have an answer. Now the seriousness of the questioner and his respect for Bhagavan is not in question at all, says the philosopher who accounts this. But Bhagavan says, you will get an answer. And he goes into Mauna. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour. Everybody who had all got anxious by the heat of this questioning, they are all quieted down. They are all imbibing the Mauna Sannidhi of Bhagavan and quietening down. Suddenly, the person who had brought the problem, he says, I got the answer. Bhagavan says, what is it? You write it down and you tell it to us. Then he says that the great ones, in concord with the highest powers that have created everything, are doing great good to humanity. But this great good cannot be measured, cannot be understood by the sadhakas or the ordinary intellects. So the best course for those who are coming to such a sannidhi is to remain silent, to remain surrendered, and to make maximum benefit from that Mauna Sannidhi so that they also can be in accord with the highest powers. This is the account more or less. You can go to face and you can see. But the Jnani is bringing the Kalyanam from such a level that we are not able to fathom it. But it is definitely there. And we get an inkling of this in a story we chanced upon during this week. It is a very simple story, and it is not from Jnani, but Bhagavan gives us the freedom that the Jnani is the highest bhakta, is the highest practitioner of love, unconditional love. So there is a clue from this story that we came across during this week from one of the exchanges. There is a war veteran. The story goes somewhat like this. To get a feel of what is the healing power, what is the healing power of the Jnani, just get a clue of that. This veteran is one of those who has gone into the Normandy landings. Normandy landings are the landings from the US forces, which was in an open beach, and the German forces were all in very comfortable and safe positions, and they could shoot down. And I think it was MacArthur, the General MacArthur, who was in charge of that, and he himself used to boldly run up and down the beach and encourage all these people to come. And he has participated in 2 or 3 other wars during the Second World War battles. And he says the worst happenings that had registered in his mind were 2 events. One was in the concentration camps that he visited. There were stacks of bodies, 8 feet high, that is after all the burnings, 8 feet high in so many rooms. And those who were walking were also merely skins stretched over bones. So his thoughts were just, how can a civilized man do this to another? And the other incident is on himself, that there are German children, 12, 13 years old, indoctrinated and given the rifles in war, and they are all soldiers. And these people have to shoot them. They have to shoot them because they have been so indoctrinated, they don't withdraw, they don't surrender. That goes very deep into him, and it remains very long. Even after his son's birth, he is able to remember they are all children of these two incidents. Keep in mind, but his story is regarding his marriage and his love in his marriage, the unconditional love in his marriage, and how that unconditional love is able to heal these wounds of the entire evil of man to man, and his own compulsion as an allied force to kill a young child, German child, who, though he is an opponent, is still a child. How the unconditional love he has received from the one relationship, how that heals is the whole account. So you can go through that. I have sent that link. The story, brief account of it, is that they are all living in a remote place in that western coast of USA. He is born sometime in 1924 or 23, 1923, and he has got very great regard for his father, but loses his father when he is 9 years old, and his mother is only bringing the three children up. She moves to a city nearby where he meets the one with whom he has practiced unconditional love. Now, what he says in the beginning of the talk itself is very interesting. The loss of father was a great loss at that time. But I realized in my meditations that unless that event had happened, I wouldn't have come and had this relationship at all. Unless that event had taken place, unless that burning had taken place, this event of experimenting and learning from life would not have taken place. So that is one impersonal incident, that the unconditional love is able to heal the personal loss of father. It is able to heal when he finds unconditional love. For 74, 71 years they live, and he, at the end, he says, I am looking forward to living another 3 to 75th year celebration of marriage is what we are looking forward to. But how that unconditional love, the not looking into the faults of the other, knowing that the other is limited, but not looking at the faults and being there unconditionally, how it overcomes the personal loss of father. They both lose their young daughter to a drunken driver hitting her or some other way on the way back from school. And in the memorial service, how the practice of unconditional love for each other, how that is able to overcome that grief, and the injuries of seeing the stacked bodies, and his own compulsion to kill 12-year-olds. All these iniquities, he says, are overcome in the unconditional love, and they have given more depth to the unconditional love. Those great troubles, those great iniquities have given me depth in learning about this unconditional love, and I have had a perfect life, he says. I have had a perfect life. Now this unconditional love is what is practiced as witnessing. Is in awareness. When we shift the mode of awareness from love to consciousness, the unconditional love in bhakti, irrespective of what God gives me, எனக்கு என்ன வேண்டும் என்ன வேண்டாம் என்பதையெல்லாம் என்னை விட நன்கறிந்தோன் எம்பெருமான். What is good or what is necessary for me is known better than me, much better than me by Bhagavan. Why should I inquire whether he is bringing X circumstances or Y circumstances? That is unconditional love. When practiced with a human being, you clearly understand that is what we have to practice with God, because that is what God is giving us. Irrespective of who we are, he continues to love us. Now, in terms of awareness, it is witnessing. That is, that awareness removed off or freed from likes and dislikes. That's what we saw. So, the love freed of hatred and love, the duality of hatred and love, and that is what we call as unconditional love. The same thing only is called as witnessing. So therefore, the whole area of unconditional love and witnessing, what power they bring, what healing they bring, and how they cross the whole area of the iniquities in creation. Now, the same awareness without like or dislike, it transcends all the iniquities that can come in the consciousness. You see the Hitler's situations, and can we look at that without like and dislike? Can we look at our own thoughts without like and dislike? That is witnessing. Even that witnessing has its source in the Atma. And Bhagavan says in Atma Vicharam, there is no triputi as the witnesser, witnessing without like and dislike, and the witnessed world, they are not there. For whom is this witnessing? Who am I? That is absorbed. And that power, if unconditional love and the power of witnessing, can overcome all the injuries that can ever exist in any creation. Any creation made of like and dislike can be crossed by unconditional love. A simple unconditional love between two human beings, it is the same which is expanded and applied to yourself and to see whatever God brings. Now, how can I judge him when I can't judge one human being for the rights and wrongs? How can I judge God for his creation? Now, that brings unconditional love towards God. The same thing is what is practiced in meditation. It can't be different. In meditation of mindfulness or witnessing, it is just the awareness without like and dislike. Whatever thoughts arise, can I look at it without like and dislike? Now, these unconditional love and witnessing are embedded in Atma Vicharam. In self-inquiry, when a thought arises, when we hold the self, automatically it means that there is unconditional love and there is witnessing embedded in that Atma Vicharam. All the healing that is possible by unconditional love, which we see in that story, you can go through that, how that gentleman describes that the simple practice of love, love is God, simple practice of love in one relationship, how that when you apply to life as a whole, it gives tremendous healing. It reveals the perfection of God's unconditional love for you. It brings us to the sannidhi of the maunam of Bhagavan. Now, that mauna is nothing but unconditional love. That mauna is nothing but the witnessing without like and dislike. In fact, these two are also absorbed into the one self. That is the lustre. That is the power that Bhagavan is saying. All Kalyana Gunas in the creation of likes and dislikes are there. All the Kalyana Gunas of unconditional love practiced between two simple beings and expanded into application for all of life. And in the whole area of practicing of mindfulness and witnessing are all included in Atma Vicharam. So one can have some indication, though, of that wonderful sannidhi of the jnani, the mauna sannidhi of the jnani, which includes all that you can see. Bhagavan says, this is time for your daughter's wedding. You go. This is the right group. You go. For 2-3 devotees, he has told that. We'll be wondering. Chadwick says he has consulted Bhagavan regarding going for dental care. Should I go, Bhagavan? There is something stuck here. Bhagavan says, you don't go. He doesn't go tomorrow. Next day itself, it comes and Chadwick realizes it was not necessary. One other time it gets stuck. Bhagavan says, go to Pondicherry. And he goes and the doctor says, this was necessary. Whatever is stuck in the gums could not have been removed by you. It required my attention, it says. So devotees have gathered kalyanas in the relative area of like and dislike. They have plundered the wealth of Bhagavan there. But even more are the great devotees who have plundered the unconditional love, that awareness without like and dislike, and the Atma Swarupa of Bhagavan, which is ever present for us. When he is present as the source of the I, then all the other things that we have discussed are automatically there. Only thing, as Bhagavan would say, we would also have to say that, oh, did that happen? When somebody says, how come this happened? We will also have to say, how, oh, did it happen? We don't know. Somehow these things happen. Somehow these events take place. It is not for us to dwell on them. It is for us to abide in this self by asking, for whom is this Kalyana sprouting all around? For whom is this Sannidhi that is there? Who am I? That is, Sarva Kalyanam is present in that Atma Swarupa. One should unhesitatingly go there, and one need not claim any benefits for being there, because that is everything. Atma is everything. There is no benefit outside of it. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. With Bhagavan's immense grace, let us practice Atma Ucharan for 10 minutes. Namo Ramana. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana. Shining is the self in all beings. What is the abundant, the luster of Bhagavan, which includes all in it. That is the luster of the jnana. And Bhagavan can probably, he is able to talk about it because it is not a specific luster to him. He is talking about the luster of the jnana, which is all inclusive, as Nandakumarji has told us, that it is the luster of the jnana. It is not the luster of the mind. That is the difference. In a sadhana where, and Nandakumarji has been very, very compassionately strong in not allowing us to go down the path of thinking of any benefits from self inquiry. Now, the benefits are not, I would not say the benefits are for the individual. That is the difference. This is the state of jnana which Bhagavan is talking of, the natural and spontaneous luster of the state of jnana. Whereas if there are benefits for the individual, it is always dangerous when one is conscious of it. Now, Bhagavan has, of course, made an exception perhaps in speaking to Humphreys. He has told Humphreys that there will be some benefits along the way. But he says unconscious power. The whatever is said in mindfulness, he has said in a different terminology. He has said power to deal with people and events, but unconscious power. That means Bhagavan is giving the warning to Humphreys that if he becomes conscious of any power, then it needs to be dealt. It's not the progress. So if one is conscious of any power, that means it is not progress, because Bhagavan has said it is unconscious power. So it cannot be any conscious addition for the ego, because we find that a very beautiful instance in our mythology is there in the case of Nachiketas, who goes to meet Yama because of his father's curse. But he tells Yama, I want to know the secret of time or the secret of Kala. Bhagavan asks in his hymn to Arunachala, prayer to Arunachala, Arayir Kalanu me yaar. So this is what Nachiketas asks. I want to know what is this mystery of death. And Yama tells him, I will give you everything other than that. Other than answering your question, I will give you everything, anything that you may seek. And Nachiketas, that young boy, he says, all right, you will give me all that. And after enjoying it, for how long? Within your realm. That is, within a period of time only. Within the realm of time, I have to enjoy all those powers. I may be having a long realm of time, but still it will be within a realm of time, and again I will have to come to your doorstep. What is the use? What is the use? He asks. So, it is very, very important that no benefit is sought. But it is also true that the self is all benefits. That the self is all benefits. So, in that sense, if one seeks the Anma Labham, Muruganar Swami says, it is the Anma Labham, en Anmanadane. I got the Anma Labham by seeking you. And Bhagavan also refers to the Labham in Ramanacentre. He says, Labhani. Iha para labhamil ennai utru. So he says there is no labha, there is nothing good, or there is no benefit. Labha actually means benefit. There is no benefit in my existence, either in the worldly sense or even in a heavenly sense. Iha para. There cannot even be any spiritual benefit. So there is no seeking in that sense. I am reminded of a very beautiful play by T.S. Eliot. It's called Murder in the Cathedral, which I happen to read as part of my syllabus. It is about Beckett. He is, I think, the Bishop of Canterbury. He was earlier the friend of the King Henry VIII, perhaps, or the sixth. I don't know the history very well. But he was a very close friend of the King, who made him the Bishop of Canterbury in order to bend the then laws of Christianity. But having become the Bishop of Canterbury, Becket refuses to change the Christian tenets. And he is threatened by the king that he will be finished off, he will be killed. Now, this play, it's history that he was killed, but this play is about 4 temptations that he has when he knows that the next day he is going to be killed. The first temptation is, of course, that he will bend to the king so that he can have all the worldly benefits. That he easily puts away. The second temptation is that if he does not take the temptation, he will get heavenly benefits. That also he puts away. The third temptation is that if he does not yield to the temptation, then he will be worshipped for all times to come as the great one who sacrificed his life. And he will be able to grant boons to people who come to his shrine. That's the third temptation, which he also sends away. He sends away the 3 tempters, and then the 4th tempter comes. And he says, I did not expect you. I thought I had finished with all the temptations. And the 4th tempter says, I could not have come, but I am part of you, though you may not have expected me. And that temptation is just to become a martyr for Christ. It is not even to get the benefit of martyrdom, but just that I will give up my life for Christ. That the thought of being a martyr, the thought of martyrdom, even that benefit, he finally says, no, even that benefit is not required. So it's a very beautiful negation of the process of seeking any benefit. So what do we seek? We are initially told that we can seek Atmajnana, we can seek self-knowledge. But as we go on in self-inquiry, the inquiry has that power, that method has the power, which will turn one to the question, who is seeking? Who is seeking? Who is practicing? Who is practicing? Who is seeking? Because the duality has to go. So there cannot be any form of seeking any benefit. At the same time, the teacher is compassionate. There is samadana beradandam, and our teacher is always only giving danam. So he promises, he holds out a promise to us that all that is required will be given. It is said in Ramana Gita that you follow this duty. Why, asks Daivarata, why should I get self-knowledge? Why should I pursue self-knowledge as the primary duty? Bhagavan says, Sarvesham phalanam uta karmanam. It is the fruit of all actions. It is the fruit of all. Again, Nanda Kumarji has been very emphatic in repeating to us that something which is generic is not dangerous. Something which is specific will be divisive. If I say A will do good and B will do bad, it will lead us to duality. If we say all thoughts are good, everything, then there is a breakage of the duality in the sadhana. So Bhagavan says, Sarvesham phalanam uta karmana. All the fruits. It's not one fruit or second fruit. It's not one desire which is going to get fulfilled. It is everything inclusive. There is nothing apart from it. And it is, of course, the shining. It is, of course, the beautiful natural blossoming, says Bhagavan. What he is telling us here is it's like this tree blossoming in spring. It is not brought about by force. It is a natural blossoming. It's a natural luster. The luster of the self which shines. Of course, all have seen. Many have seen it in Bhagavan Humphreys. Again, he says God was radiating terrifically through that corpse, he says. The body of Bhagavan, he says, he calls it a corpse, and God was radiating, but God was radiating terrifically. And Nuchuranda often quotes Sundaresha as saying, as a young boy, I would go up the hill and be with Bhagavan every day. It never felt as if I was with a human being. I never felt I am in the company of a human being. It is something divine. So that was very automatic. Even now, recently, I got a memoir from one of the devotees about her mother, and she says her mother had that glimpse of Bhagavan, darshan of Bhagavan, 10 days before his Mahadharvana. And she says there was no feeling of a body being present over there. So that luster is undeniable, and that luster is all inclusive in its grace, and therefore Bhagavan very sweetly points out to us, yes, this is what you can strive for. You can aim for that. Don't aim for less. Don't aim for anything unnatural. Aim only for the nature. When you aim for the Sat, which is natural, everything will be naturally added on. Don't aim for something which is unnatural, because that will go away, that will fall off, or that will lead to some kind of problem. If it is unnatural, it will lead to a problem. If it is natural, it is beautiful. It's the most beautiful. And then again, as Nandakumarji said, it's Sarva Kalyana Guna. Sri Rama is also called Sarva Kalyana Guna Dhama. No, so Sarva Kalyana. It is there. Their presence is, and always lustrous. And it is so beautiful that luster cannot be hidden. The luster of jnana cannot be hidden, because one may pretend. Some of the jnanis have pretended also. They have acted like madmen. They have acted this way and that way. But for the true seeker, they would always know the luster of jnana. So there is this balance, one, that we do not seek, but two, we adore that state. We adore it for its fullness and its beauty. And for that adoration, Bhagavan gives us the path. Not for the seeking of anything, not for the seeking of any benefit. Because again, Nandakumarji has narrated the story of Muruganar Swami, who asked Bhagavan, what is the benefit of doing Girivalam? Bhagavan said, just do it. Because this, he would often narrate to us, as he says in RMCL, we have had the question, can we say self-inquiry will give you all the fruits, will give all these fruits? If I say self-inquiry will give any fruit, it will be for the limited entity that the fruit is being sought. It gives beyond the fruit. So that's why we do not talk of limited benefits, but we can move towards the glory of that state which is available, which is being made available to us by Bhagavan as a very natural, again, very natural offspring of that luster and that blossoming. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramana.
Namo Ramana to all.